And we are live. Welcome back to the Bad Boys podcast. I'm James, joined as always with my good buddy Jeff. Jeff, how we doing? How was your Thanksgiving, man?
We're hungover, we're bloated, but we're victorious.
Indeed. So I'm sure you've heard the Supreme Court ruled on Cuomo's decision to shut down church
Fucking
gatherings in New
communist.
York.
Yeah, it's communist ass. He really is. He really was like a member of the Communist Party, by the way, if you didn't know that. Way back when. But yeah, and people are upset. I'm not going to refer to the left as people, but the toddlers are upset about this, of course. But it is a strict interpretation of the Constitution, which is what we want. I like it.
So was Cuomo in the Communist Party, or are you thinking of Bill de Blasio?
Maybe I do got him confused. I'm pretty sure it's Cuomo, though. Pretty sure, but I could be wrong. Could be wrong.
So we got an article here an opinion article from CNN. Supreme Court scientifically illiterate decision will cost lives.
Illiterate, scientifically illiterate. That's the right. The right is scientifically illiterate on everything, according to the left.
Well,
the party of science.
And the party of science deniers.
Yes.
Don't deny the science. Okay,
so
last month, this gentleman, Jeffrey D. Sachs, I'm not sure if he's a doctor or not. Last month, I wrote that Amy Coney Barrett would help to usher in a new post-truth jurisprudence on the Supreme Court. While I had cited her anti-science statements on climate change, her arrival on the court has created a new 5-4 majority against public health science at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. When it ruled this week against New York State's decision to limit religious gatherings in a few high-incidence parts of New York City, the court proved the dangers of scientifically illiterate judges overturning government decisions that were based on scientific evidence. Now, I'd like to preface that when they say that the government's decisions were based on scientific evidence, we've seen throughout this entire thing that just that term, scientific evidence, is completely subjective. We've seen how many doctors, how many people get completely railroaded, shut down because their scientific evidence didn't agree with Dr. Fauci's scientific evidence.
Oh, yeah. If it didn't agree with the narrative, they were shut down. So when you say your scientific evidence, we're talking about your partisan scientific evidence based off what evidence fits your beliefs and your confirmation bias, for sure. And I like how, they start this article by attacking her, saying she doesn't know what truth is. She's a climate change denier. She's anti-science. Like, you don't even know this woman. Just last month, you guys attacked her because the Biden campaign cooked up a story, to attack her based off of her religious views, which is discrimination. Congratulations, you are discriminating against somebody because of their religion.
Well, I mean, that's how he's drawing that conclusion, because he's basically saying if you are a religious person, then you are naturally anti-science, I think.
And you cannot put your beliefs to the side to form your own opinion, right? That's not people aren't capable of doing this.
No. So the two cases under review were brought by two religious bodies, the Roman Catholic Diocese of Brooklyn and the Agudath Israel of America, an Orthodox Jewish group. Both objected to stringent limits on religious gatherings in particularly hard-hit neighborhoods in Brooklyn. The court's 5 conservative justices, a new majority with Barrett now on the bench, argued that the state's limits on religious gatherings violated the minimum requirement of neutrality to religion under the First Amendment. Now, Jeff, you being the constitutionalist that you are, what exactly is the minimum requirement of neutrality?
So there's 2 clauses for neutrality and the First Amendment. The first clause would be the free exercise clause, which states that under which government must not substantially burden the exercise of religion without a compelling government interest. And then you have the establishment clause, which is just simply saying that the government cannot establish official religion. They cannot favor one over the other. Mm-hmm. So what I'm going with here is that the Supreme Court, and can we stop calling them conservatives or liberal Supreme Court justices, they're not supposed to be biased. It's
Oh,
strictly interpreting or loosely interpreting the Constitution in a historical context. But this is going against the free exercise clause because you can't shut down a church and then allow bicycle shops to remain open. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah.
it's not compelling.
So the counter argument to that I've been seeing on political forums is there's no mass gatherings at bike shops. And
Okay.
that's the reason why that comparison that Gorsuch made is inaccurate. And to a degree, it makes sense,
Yeah.
but you can't keep one open and the other not open.
But I mean, if we're going to talk about science, you have the Home Depot open, and you have and even though they're not mass gathering, you have thousands of people in and out of that store every day touching things, sneezing. You're going and touching the same things that they're touching. So, are we going to deny the science, or are we going to just kind of make it up as we go?
Well, I'd also like to point out that the Supreme Court doesn't interpret scientific documents. The Supreme Court interprets the Constitution.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter what scientific evidence you have. If it violates the Constitution, then that's how they're going to rule. That's how they're supposed to rule.
Science or religion are not above the Constitution. Neither one of them are. So you can amend the Constitution with a 2/3 majority and a 2/3 majority of state vote to amend it. So if you have some scientific evidence that would, dictate the constitutional interpretation of something, then you could go the proper way and amend it. But with this, I think their argument is straightforward. You're an individual, and apparently, according in 2020, individualism is a ideology of white supremacy. But whatever, I like individualism, and people can kind of make their own choices. They can determine what's best for them. Especially, what if you've already had it? What if that church congregation got the coronavirus? What if they've already had it? Now they're immune to it. I mean, there's a lot of different variables here.
Well, there is, but at the same time, you're not allowed to think for yourself.
No,
you're not allowed to, because it goes against the science.
Yes.
And science says that large gatherings of, their science says that large gatherings of people is an easy way to spread a virus with a 99% survival rate.
Yeah, 99? Well, yeah, depending on your age group, I mean, 99.9, 99.8, something like that. I mean, and then you're pushing a vaccine that has a 90%, what would be a good word?
Rate.
Effective rate. Yeah, there you go. So the whole thing, it just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, I've had it. I understand, it affects people differently. I understand people are dying from it. But if it's not severe enough to cancel school and to close the bike shops and the coffee shops and the Hobby Lobbies, then I think that if people want to go to church, they can. Not even that. It's the church's decision. All of the churches around here, even though schools are open where I live, they all still do the virtual program, like for church. It's their right to choose. They're their own entity. And if the government is going to regulate what the church can do and cannot do, then there's no separation of church and state at that point in time.
Agreed. So here's how the court majority characterize that violation of minimum neutrality. In a red zone, while a synagogue or church may not admit more than 10 persons, businesses categorized as essential may admit as many people as they wish. And this list of essential businesses includes things such as acupuncture facilities, campgrounds, garages, as well as many whose services are not limited to those that can be regarded as essential, such as all plants manufacturing chemicals and microelectronics and all transportation facilities. So basically, Cuomo put a restriction on the number of people that may attend church, but did not put a restriction on the number of people that can be inside acupuncture facilities, campgrounds, garages, etc.
Well, yeah. And I mean, this is just an example of command economics. This is, and I'm doing this as a pawn. This is literally what the Nazis did. They dictated what economic functions were essential, and those were the businesses and manufacturing plants and facilities that they controlled. They, these
Mhm.
are the ones that are allowed to be open. These are the ones that get to produce this. These are the ones that get to make a profit. These are the ones who get to stay open because we deemed them as essential. Okay, that's command economics. That is socialism
Mhm.
in its purest form, with government control over the economy and what they see as fit. That's scary, and it's not. I don't think it's okay personally. I mean, I understand we're in the midst of a pandemic. I get that, but you can't say, well, you have a curfew and only these businesses can stay open from this time. You're controlling the economy at that point in time. It's going to lead to bad things.
Well, they love authoritarianism in the name of humanitarian efforts.
Well, you cannot be progressive if you don't have something that needs fixed. You know,
Well, exactly, and you see people constantly railing on Trump for being a fascist, but I mean, you're looking at these lockdowns, and that is, I mean, that fits.
authoritarianism.
Yeah, I mean, it fits the definition absolutely perfectly. And I mean, me personally, I understand that the virus is deadly to a large portion of the population, but at the same time, people are free to do whatever they want to do. If they want to go outside and get the virus, then they can go outside and get the virus. We live in a free country. It's a free
Yeah,
world. People
I
are
mean,
free to make their own decisions.
and you got doctors, and I have nothing against. I don't have anything against any one profession. That's just silly. But you got a lot of doctors out here like, oh, we need to shut this down because we're at risk. You signed up for that job.
Hmm.
You picked that job.
Yep.
Now it is time to put the boots on and do that job.
Yep.
You don't get to make policy because you picked that job.
Yeah. Nobody made you pick that job.
Right. Like that's like soldiers. They go to war. They knew what they were getting into.
Hmm.
When they go to war and bad things happen, it's part of the job.
So this guy goes on and continues to call the justices illiterate here.
Oh, I know.
So Kavanaugh also argued the state argues that it has not impermissibly discriminated against religion because some secular businesses, such as movie theaters, must remain closed and are thus treated less favorably than houses of worship. But under this court's precedents, it does not suffice for a state to point out that, as compared to houses of worship, some secular businesses are subject to similarly severe or even more severe restrictions. Rather, once a state creates a favored class of businesses, as New York has done in this case, the state must justify why houses of worship are excluded from that favored class. So the author goes on, the problem is that the apparently scientifically illiterate majority of the court missed the entire point of the restriction on religious services. Gorsuch mistakenly claims that New York State deems laundry and liquor as essential, but religious services as not essential. That is false. Kavanaugh mistakenly claims that New York State failed to justify why houses of worship are excluded from the favored class of business with lesser restrictions. This too is false.
At
Now,
the
he
end of the day,
doesn't cite in the case where or why that's false.
yeah, he doesn't. He just claims it, and it's bullshit to even have a favored or unfavored section of the economy or businesses that the government chooses the winner of. The government doesn't get to pick winners and losers. That's fucking bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
And
Agreed.
and this is why movie theaters that'll never be a thing again ever.
No, yeah,
I
they're
mean,
done.
and regardless, I mean, most people have common sense and wouldn't go to the movie theaters even if they were open. Right. I
Agreed.
mean, I wouldn't go to the movie theaters to see a new movie. I mean, that's common sense. I mean, the government
Mhm.
picking it's bullshit. I can't stand it. And he has nothing to back up his claim, and his claim's harsh. It's rude.
Well, so here's what the liberal justices wrote here. So Justice Sonia Sotomayor and Alana Kagan, writing in the minority, explained the basic scientific facts that were completely overlooked by the majority. But Justice Gorsuch does not even try to square his examples with the conditions medical experts tell us facilitate the spread of COVID-19. Large groups of people gathering, speaking, and singing in close proximity indoors for extended periods of time, unlike religious services, which have every one of those risk factors, bike repair shops and liquor stores generally do not feature customers gathering inside to sing and speak together for an hour or more at a time. Epidemiologists and physicians generally agree that religious services are among the riskiest activities. Justices of this court play a deadly game in second guessing the expert judgment of health officials about the environments in which a contagious virus, now infecting 1 million Americans each week, spreads most easily.
Look, I mean, I must just want to just say that it doesn't matter what you do, you can't stop a virus. You can't fight something you can't see.
I mean, yeah, but I'd also like to point out that not once did she cite anything written in the Constitution
No,
to back up what she is saying.
right.
And is that not their job?
Right. Their whole job is to interpret the Constitution, not interpret the science.
It's just baffling to me that at least that there's no even speak of the Constitution in this.
Nothing.
If every ruling was made based on scientific evidence, then what's the point of the Constitution? The science is the new Constitution, apparently.
Yeah, and then you can just do any kind of study you want to verify your fucking claim and push it through.
Exactly.
We have a we have a constitution for a reason. It's so fucking stupid. Like when you leave doors open, I mean, that's like tomorrow they can be like, all right, look, if you have a gasoline powered car, sorry, you got to walk for now on until you can get yourself an electric car because the science says that we're going to die in 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you see how stupid that sounds?
Yeah. So she goes on. In fact, the great risks for transmission are indoor places like religious services, restaurants, concert halls, and theaters, where large groups are together for a considerable period of time, typically an hour or more. New York treats houses of worship far more favorably than their secular comparators by requiring movie theaters, concert venues, and sporting arenas subject to New York's regulation to close entirely, but allowing houses of worship to open subject to capacity restrictions. So the whole argument from what I've seen is the reason that they ruled against this is because they put capacity restrictions on houses of worship, but not everyone else, which violates that minimum requirement for neutrality because they are favoring other businesses by not putting capacity restrictions equally on the board. Am I interpreting that correctly?
Yeah, I mean I mean they're giving them restrictions that others don't have, so that it's not neutral, right?
Yeah.
It's exactly what that would say. And I mean, imagine, I mean, a house of worship doesn't necessarily fall under this too much, but imagine feeling as though that you're entitled to say that, sorry, you don't get to go feed your kids because we deemed your business as too risky or not essential. So you don't get to go feed your kids.
Well, the science says that your business is not essential. Apparently.
Say you're 30 years old, no nothing, or you've already had it and you want to cut hair. You want to make money. You want to buy your kids. You want to give your kids a good Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
You want to put food on the table. Sorry, you don't get to do that.
No, that's it's a non-essential. Yeah, it's a weird time that we're in at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 3 weeks in now of no social media. I'm enjoying it. You know, I forgot that people are actually stupid. I'm actually more friendly to people now. But
yes,
you got to bring it back to that point though. Like, how can that justice argue based off of science and not the Constitution? Like, this isn't like, I don't understand. I understand that, but I don't know if the general populace understands why that's a problem. You know?
Well, and I think that most people would just say, you know, the science says this, so therefore it's a fact, right? The science says that large gatherings spread the virus, so therefore,
science can't say anything, and that's the first thing. Science doesn't say anything. Science is a method.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so people are saying this based off of the science that of the institution that they like, that they favor, whatever. But the Supreme Court's the judicial branch's whole purpose of existing is to check to see if laws are constitutional or not. They're not there to check to see if it goes with the science.
Hmm. Well, I
Like,
mean, you can use the science all you want. I mean, it doesn't matter what the science says. If the Constitution says one thing and the science says the other, your job is to interpret laws based on the Constitution, not on the science.
I mean, what are they going to do? Shooting guns is bad for your eardrums, so we have to ban all guns because that's what the science says. Like that's basically that's the road that they would take. It's baffling because that's made up. You know, like they didn't they made that whole like job description up.
Hmm.
Like they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, and they keep citing the scientific evidence, but you have to remember that it's just not relevant in this situation.
The CDC said yesterday that they're going to lower the amount of days in which you need to quarantine yourself based off of new science.
Hmm.
So, I mean, at one point in time, that's like when Fauci said, the general public doesn't need to wear a mask.
Hmm.
Okay. And then a couple months later, they said, no, everybody needs to wear a mask. And then he said, I said that because I didn't want health professionals to go without the proper equipment that they needed. Well,
Yep.
okay, you fucking idiot. You just killed a bunch of people because
Oh,
you said that
on
they
his
didn't need to wear
logic,
masks. Yeah.
yeah.
But by all means, the orange man's the one that did it.
Well, he's everybody's favorite little authoritarian.
That's it. It's crazy. It's insane.
Well, yeah, but if you said to people, "Oh, well, did you know that Fauci said not to wear a mask?" They'd be like, "No, he didn't. That didn't happen."
But it did, and think about this generation of kids who are going to miss, a good solid year, maybe even 2 years of school.
Hmm.
What's that going to do for our country in the coming decades? Like they're going to be behind. They're going to
They're
be,
yeah, they're definitely gonna need to be retaught a lot of stuff.
I mean, that's not like after wars, like after World War I and stuff, when schools were put on a back burner because of funding and the war effort, you have a for layman's terms, you have a dumb generation that comes from that,
Hmm.
and that causes the country problems. It's the same thing it's going to happen from this.
Well, yeah, I mean,
I mean, I'm
I
not
mean,
religious. I
yeah.
don't care about church that much, but it's just the principle of the matter.
Well, yeah, and the principle is important. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the end game is. I don't know when. I don't know when things will be back to normal. I mean, all you hear every day is cases, 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 cases.
And I
You
don't know
don't
what
hear
the
about
right
the death
answer is
rate
either.
anymore. You don't
No,
hear about the deaths anymore.
no, you don't because and
It's
then
just cases, 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 cases.
And you have senators like Rand Paul who come out and say, well, the death rate has dropped by 90% magically, so, and then he gets bashed, even though he's a medical doctor, he gets bashed, by saying, he's denying the science. Well,
He's a science denier.
right. Like it doesn't, it's such polarizing and strange times that like, I mean, it's been this way for a while because, the right's always been viewed as climate change deniers as well.
Hmm.
And I don't know many people who deny that the climate's changing.
Well, neither do I. But when you get further down into it, and they say, "Well, humans are the cause," and then someone says, "Well,
We don't know that.
I don't know if that's proven." They're like, "Oh, there you go.
Denier,
String him up. He's a
denier,
denier.
denier.
Take him out. Arrest him. He's done. He's denied what I think is true, and I can't be around him anymore."
I can't. He needs to face a penalty. He needs to get fact checked on social media because that is the those are the authoritarian figures on what is true. You know,
Yeah,
the
and
media
go ahead.
the media and internet companies that are tied into Silicon Valley, which happen to be the richest and most powerful corporations to ever exist in human history, get to dictate what is true and what is conspiracy.
Hmm. No, I agree. I agree. And I like to peruse Reddit r/politics and argue with people, and you see these lefties claiming, I mean, at least from what I've seen, that conservatives, Republicans, basically anyone that doesn't agree with them is just lacks critical thinking skills.
And I mean,
They lack the ability
yeah,
to make proper decisions. And I would personally say that it's the opposite.
I think my screen froze. Yeah, because yeah, I agree because they believe literally like verbatim, like status quo. They believe what they read
Mm-hmm.
is as accurate as what a religious extremist believes when they read their religious doctrine. Like that's what it is. They believe it to that be that extreme. And on a social level, you consider yourself a leftist for the most part,
Yeah.
but this new breed of leftism is not what I know of leftism. I mean, most leftism I can get down on. Gay people getting married, absolutely, it does not affect me whatsoever. But like this whole new swing of authoritarianism is
That's the scary part.
it is it's
And
rising
the,
and
and the fact that everyone is on board with it is even
yeah,
scarier.
like it's like whatever the New York Times says is real
Mm-hmm.
is what's fucking real, and if you
People,
deny it,
yeah.
it's wrong. And like it's crazy because like if you notice throughout like the timetable here, we started off with Fox News is bad, Fox News is bad, Fox News is bad. Okay, we get it. Fox News is bad. Not a
Mm-hmm.
problem. I agree with you. But then but your source of news is truthful and
That's the
honest.
thing, yeah.
Right. But
Yeah, well, you
mine
get your
isn't.
news from that source. Well, you must be wrong because that doesn't say what I think it should say, and therefore you're dumb.
Right. That's exactly what it is. Fox News is bad. Anything that's right wing is bad. It's conspiracy. They push conspiracies. But the New York Times, the LA Times, the Washington Post, that shit is the gospel of truth.
Yeah, it is. It is becoming almost like a religion to these people, I think.
It is. It is. It's
It's
like,
like their news is almost it's like their Bible, and if you question it, you're an atheist in
it's,
that
yeah.
sense.
Especially if you question something in the name of progress, what they deem as progress.
Yeah.
Like, if I said, you know what? I don't agree with reparations. I don't think I should pay for something that I never was involved in. Logically, I think that's reasonable. But to them, like that, you're fucking stepping on progress, and that is not okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and a lot of the arguments I've had, they always say that that Republicans and conservatives are in the way of progress. But you have to remember that to these people, these lefties, government is their god basically. I mean, they want the government to come down and fix everything.
And
You
it's
know what?
so
I don't want the government to care about me. I
no,
don't want them to have anything to do with me.
I don't want them to fix me. I can
No,
fix
I don't.
myself.
They don't need to be involved in my life. Why do they need to be involved in any of our lives?
They don't.
When has that ever turned out good in history?
Well, and that's what I'm saying. It's so hypocritical. And I like how we've gotten completely off topic, but that's okay. It's gotten so hypocritical because all of these issues that we need to fix in the name of progressivism, how did them issues get there? Government.
Yeah.
Um, if we like we're tearing down statues. That's such an unintelligent argument that I won't even get into it because I don't care. But if you're going to look at the Democrat Party, you would tear down every single one of them fucking statues.
Well, if you went back in history, yeah.
Yeah, but they get a free pass. I'm
Well, they
saying
get
like
a free pass because they're the party of
of progress,
yeah.
right? It's hypocritical. That this is why like I can't get down on on this, and I'm going to say this modern leftism because
Hmm.
they're not consistent at all. They're the opposite of consistent. Consistency doesn't that's not a vocabulary word that they're familiar with.
No, they're not, and it's just it's weird how we've seen this. I mean, and especially with me because I used to be very far on the left.
Bernie bro.
Yes, and it's just it's weird how we've gone down this path where there's a party that just wants more government involved in our lives, more government aid, more safety net, more government. and more government.
Yeah. It used
And
to be
then you
basic
have,
fundamentals too, like shit that you could get behind. Like, okay, yeah, I agree that people should be, gay people should get married. Basic shit. But now it's like you need to let the government control every single thing you do in life, or you're in the way.
well, yeah, and that's what they want. They want the government to come down and solve all your problems. And that's not how it should be.
But it doesn't work because you can't put a blanket approach to, because human beings are individuals and our needs are our own. My needs are not the same as yours.
Yeah, it doesn't work, but their solution is to have the government come down and make you make it work.
Right.
That's the point. Make you wear a mask, make you stay inside, make your business close down, make you get a vaccine. All of these things that they want the government
Yeah.
to do.
Make you pay for hardships somebody faced centuries ago, make you pay for somebody's health care, make you pay for somebody's college, make you pay for somebody's housing. It's
all in the
not.
name of progress.
All in the name of progress.
Well, I don't know what we're progressing to. I think we're just where we are going is we're just going to be taxed into oblivion.
Yeah, and I think you can progress yourself so forward that you end up going backwards. You go around in the circle and you start back less. And I think that's probably what would happen. And from a historical lens, I can tell you, you could ask any historian, when you give up your rights for something, you don't get them back. Ever.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you give the government power, they're not going to give it back to you.
Ever. It's not white versus black. It's not left versus right. It's always been, well, I mean, maybe a bit of a stretch, but you versus the man.
Mm-hmm.
To a degree. I mean, we did dump a whole bunch of fucking tea in a harbor over some taxation without representation.
Well, we have, and the conversations I've had with black friends of mine is it's an economic competition, and to a degree it is.
Yeah, it is,
and,
because
go ahead.
Because the Democrat Party adopted the Republicans' economic policies back in the 90s, so it is fighting for leverage on the economy. The Republicans, obviously, they push for the things that they like the oil and gas industry or whatever. Plenty of things you can fit into that box, and the Democrats do the same thing. Whether it's green energy, but they're all pushing for their form of economic interest to reign supreme.
Exactly.
That's what it is. It's exactly what it is. It's good. It's a good point.
All right, my friend. Well,
all right.
That was a good one. If you're watching, stay tuned. We're going to be dropping some more here shortly. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.
See ya.